What up, YouTube? My name is Wade, and this is my show, Stranger Than Fiction. It's a brand new year, and I want to bring you guys some really cool stuff, so let's get into it. We've got a lot to cover. We are talking today about the Tunguska Event. So it's really cool. It's one of my favorite mysteries because it's one of my first mysteries when I was a child, because there's a line about it in Ghostbusters 1, the Tunguska Event. All right, so June 30th, 1908, Tunguska, Siberia. It's a very big, remote area. There's not even a lot there today. 7:15 a.m. Mysterious event occurred that has never been figured out. It was heard and seen from over 500 miles away. It possibly released enough energy to be about the effect of 185 atom bombs. There was recorded accounts of broken windows and people who were thrown down to the ground hundreds of miles away. Barometers in England recorded a pressure wave of an impact. So this is the map of Tunguska, the general area. I believe the map is in Russian because we're talking about Russia. Maybe I'm wrong about the language there, but you get a good idea of the area. High atmosphere dense clouds appeared afterwards, and those sort of clouds only appear after a high amount of water vapor has been put into the air. And the sky was abnormally bright that night over Russia and over big parts of Europe. Abnormally bright. There was an official investigation that was launched, which was an expedition of a group of scientists, but that wasn't until 1921, which is 19 years after the event. Imagine trying to be a forensic scientist trying to collect evidence of a crime 19 years after the event. I know what happens now, but we're talking about 1908. However, World War I slowed the process and the gears of the money and the organization, and then they had a hard time even getting out to where the event occurred. Finding the event, this whole thing is a process. I get to tell you about it now because it's been knowledge for a long time, but they had to figure out where to go and where to look. And then on top of that, Siberia is a very not developed rural area. So anyways, it took them 6 years to find the event location and to get there. So it took them 25 years from the event to get there and study it. But what did they eventually find? Local people had made reports of seeing something in the sky. It was like a fireball, but it had a blue tint to it, and it lit up the night sky. Eventually, the fireball fell over the horizon. This was accompanied by a flash, an earth-shaking rumble, a loud boom, and a very warm, unseasonably warm wind that followed. You're talking about Siberia here. It's very cold in Siberia for most of the year. The expedition discovered an estimated 80 million trees across 500,000 acres that had been uprooted, torn out of the ground, laid down sideways as if they had been blown down from a centralized area. So there's an area, and all the trees are blown down sideways out from this area. So it's like something happened, and then all the trees went, okay, like my sound effects. When they finally discovered that the center of the trees, the epicenter, they found trees that were still standing completely straight up, but they had been stripped of all of their bark and all of their limbs. And this epicenter that we're talking about was about 20 miles, so 20 miles in every direction from this epicenter. Some reports say between 10 and 20. I'm just going to give you 20 because that covers the largest encounter of this. And that was about 25,000 acres. And that 25,000 acres at the center was charred. It was burned, but not burned all the way like it had, like the trees had burned and then fallen down, because they didn't. Not all those trees fell down. Some of those trees were still standing up. Nothing there lived. Nothing there was growing. Nothing there lived. So still 25 years later, nothing there was growing. It was just this desolate area of everything in every direction. Nothing. It's estimated that approximately 30 people, so think about the titanic scale of this area that's affected. That's how rural it is. About only 30 people witnessed the event. However, many people recorded being knocked unconscious by it, thrown across the room, buildings being knocked down, and some of them were even killed. So, although about 30 people witnessed the event, less than 30 people lived to tell the tale. So, you see in the map, take a look at the trees. These are really old pictures. So, one example of the trees all laying down, and then another example of some of the trees that were left still standing after the event. So, no official cause was ever discovered, although there are some theories. I'm going to cover the gambit of theories here. Okay, so one of the theories is aliens. There's no evidence of aliens. There was no UFO or UAP sightings before or after, although it is crazy rural, so maybe they're out there and people are just not seeing them. There's no radiation left behind. There's nothing. Failed Russian superweapon test. Well, this was pre World War II, so it's pretty unlikely that they had already developed or been developing an atom bomb. Go ahead and see the movie Oppenheimer. It covers the long, hard process of the math and the physics to get that accomplished. And for that to be so far along that they tested it is very unlikely. And then also, there's no radiation left behind. All the atom bombs that we tested in other countries have radiation that's been left behind, and there's none of that there, or none of that's been found or reported. um, a subterranean geothermal explosion. Although this idea is possible, it has occurred in other places. It's never occurred to this scale, and there's no evidence like broken rock or different things like that that this is the right sort of environment for that, let alone at this magnitude. One theory that's been posited is a small black hole collided with the Earth and caused an antimatter explosion. And to be honest, we can't really debunk that because we're not very big experts on what antimatter explosions are like or what they leave behind, but this is also unlikely. The very popular theory is that an asteroid struck the Earth. However, that is also unlikely because there is no crater. This is the epicenter today. Well, relatively today, more recent. Okay, so although nothing grows in that center, there's no crater that's there. All the lakes in the area appear to be natural formations, and they're consistent with other water and land formations in the area. My personal guess, what I think is most reasonable, is an icy asteroid. Sorry, an icy comet. Now, there is some asteroid evidence because there's been microdiamonds that have been discovered in the area, and microdiamonds are created from the heat and the pressure when a rock hits the Earth and leaves these things behind, although only a small amount of microdiamonds have been left behind. The icy comet theory is pretty plausible because it would heat up in the atmosphere. The release of the water turning into oxygen from the heat would cause it to be blue in our atmosphere. There would have been an explosion. If it airbursted, so if it exploded above the surface, like we've detonated some of our nuclear bombs, that would also, the pressure coming down would strip the trees of their limbs and their bark. It would push out, so that pressure comes down and then pushes out, which would cause the trees to drop down, and you'd get still this epicenter. The earthquake, the hot wind, all of those things are consistent with that. And the water vapor clouds that formed in the upper atmosphere are also all things that happen when you have a lot of water vapor in the atmosphere that gets absorbed in a very small amount of time. So I think the icy comet, although it's less science fiction and I enjoy science fiction, is probably the most likely answer. So we basically got to kind of experience a nuclear explosion before we knew what a nuclear explosion was like. And only 30 some people witnessed it, and not everybody lived. So for me, it's really cool. It's still a mystery because nobody witnessed it, and there's a lot of things that we can't prove about this. So I think this is a great mystery, and it's locked in the halls of history. Go ahead and let me know what you guys think and feel about it down in the comments. We here at the Dragon's Lair understand you can spend your time anywhere on the internet, so we want to say thank you for spending your time here with us at the Dragon's Lair.